And now, ladies and gentlemen, having touched upon quite extensively on the issue of identity, this ties in very nicely with our next panel and our session on the post-third party cookie era. Many of us are wrestling with the issue and how it will change the way we do business. And it will be fascinating to hear from our panel shortly. Don't forget to submit your questions for the panelists using the Q&A box located at the bottom of the Zoom window. And at this time, I am delighted to introduce the moderator for this session, Andrew Hayward-Wright, our Programmatic Advisor at IAB Europe and Partnership Director at SeenThis. Drew, over to you.
Thanks, Constantine, and welcome also. Today I'm joined by Managing Director EMEA for DoubleVerify, Katharina, Arntzen, Head of Ads Privacy, EMEA Google, Alex Stil, President, GroupM, EMEA Services, and Joanna Burton, CSO at ID5. Thank you all for joining and taking the time to talk to me about a post-third-party cookie world and the opportunities and direction of the market. Obviously, with the backdrop of Terence's amazing animated field, Jeff Bezos field presentation, and also Daniel's earlier one, where it was good to see, obviously, both iterating the growth in digital advertising with the backdrop of obviously 2020 kicking the wheels in motion with the deprecation of third-party cookies. It's led to an explosion over the last 6 months. I think there was a slide in Terence's deck that kind of illustrated it, of lots of different alternatives. And it'd be great to get your individual starting thoughts and takes on what the last 6 months has really been, and are we any closer to figuring it all out for 2022? Katharina, I might start with you.
Okay, hi everyone. Do you hear me? Does the mic work?
Yes, yeah.
Amazing, it does, perfect. Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Katharina Arntzen, and I'm Head of Ads Privacy in-country lead EMEA on Google's go-to-market team. And well, in my current role, as well as in my previous role as Head of Ads Privacy for Central Europe, I've been monitoring the changes of the ads ecosystem. And I have to say, user expectations, as we all know, are rising, and changes are happening. And according to Eurostat, the thing is that users believe that the amount of data we are gathering is so much that it can't be kept safe. So as a result of this, user trust in the ads ecosystem is in decline, and we need to do something about this. Like, the web has to change overall. So actually in 2020, Google announced a couple of changes, including that we stopped supporting third-party cookies, but obviously not without a plan in mind that advertisers and publishers can continue doing their business. And this plan in mind is known in the industry as Privacy Sandbox. And this year, actually, we announced the first couple of positive developments there around the feature around the product Flock, where we use machine learning and the creation of cohorts with similar interests. This is what we are doing at the moment to address these changes, and hopefully, testing will come to Europe soon. It's being planned and will be announced to the wider public once we have more.
Excellent. Alex?
First on mute. Yeah, I hope you can hear me too. Go. Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm Alex. I head up Group Services for EMEA, so work on the advertiser side. I'm happy to hear Flock is coming. I'm still curious on when, so I say that with a smile, because I think a lot of things is still unclear for some of us. So if we look at what we've been doing as a group, it's basically looking at from three phases. Phase one, and we basically started with that last year, was really around education and training of what's happening, what changes do we see in the ecosystem, what do we expect, and also what are the unknowns, being very transparent to our clients that there are still many unknowns. And I like the presentation, the previous one, where we talked about the hedge garden. I think I'm going to steal that word, to be honest. Every time you learn something new, I never heard that one. But it's really around understanding the dynamics and explaining to our clients around what's happening within the walled gardens, what are the things like Privacy Sandbox, explaining what we know and what we expect you to know. Second part is now where we're currently at, I would say, with our clients is more what we call an audit phase. And audit sounds quite heavy, but it's really with client by client start to analyze, okay, what is the tech stack we're using? What kind of campaigns are we doing? What kind of tactics are we implementing? How are you currently doing measurement? So really, we have a quite extensive audit that we created for all our clients, which we're now doing across basically all our markets. Coming out of that audit is basically then the third phase where we're moving into, where slowly we're getting a bit more clarity around the options and what is possible and what's not. So this is really working towards solutions with our clients and saying, okay, these 5 things we now know, very simple examples around server-to-server integration for measurement. These are the things we can do. And these are some of the unknowns we need to work together and do a lot of test and learning. And that's the phase we're now really getting into. So we globally basically set up a global test and learn program. We refer to as team of teams, because it's not one group of people in our organization working on it. It's really around what does it mean from a strategy perspective, planning, how we leverage data, optimization, campaign activation, measurement. So different groups working on it and really trying to define what are the things we need to test and sharing that. So for instance, Vlog as an example, we probably learn more out of the US first with some of our clients, things that the trade desk is doing. What are the things we can learn out of the US directly already and prepare that in Europe, but also the other way around. What are the things we actually know here that potentially can be leveraged in other places? So it's really around learning together now and being agile and being fast around those learnings, making sure those learnings are shared quite rapidly so we can be on top of that. But no one has the full, okay, here's the answer, get ready, and this is done.
And Joanna?
So from the last 6 months, there's a lot to unpack in there. So one of the things that I've really seen in the last 6 months is that more and more advertisers and agencies are coming to me asking more and more about universal ID. So that now Alex has just explained why I'm speaking to so many different people at GroupM. So
sorry for that.
So thanks for that. But I feel like this is a topic that we've been talking about for a long time. In IAB Interact in Milan, we were just on the eve of GDPR coming into play, and there was a lot of conversation then about being privacy by design and how can we move to a new industry infrastructure. There was the excellent work done by the IAB with the transparency and consent framework, which has since been improved. So there was already a move towards privacy. There's already a problem with Firefox and Safari traffic being unaddressable if you can't use third-party cookies. So already those moves were in play, and Terry's presentation did a great job of summarizing that earlier. But then what I've seen, especially in the last 6 months, in the last year, since the Google announcement that Katharina explained that happened in January last year, more and more publishers have been talking with us about getting ready, having universal ID products available on their site and activating in a privacy compliant way. And then just in the last 6 months, I'm seeing more and more calls from the guys on the agency side and the advertiser side, seeking more and more information as that Google deadline approaches.
Excellent. And Tanzil, from your perspective, obviously as well, Terence mentioned it just before, that we focus in terms of the deprecation of third-party cookie around the audience and stuff, but there's a wider impact, right, isn't there? It's like measurement, site performance, all of those sort of things. So it'd be interesting to get your take.
Absolutely. Once again, like everybody else, happy to be here. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. The challenge with cookies going away is broader than just the targeting and the fact that we're not able to engage with our consumers in the same way as we have done in the past. I think the question that you're asking is, over the last 6 months, what have we seen? And I think it's a little bit like, it reminds me of when I was at university, right? You have a project to hand in and you leave it to the last minute. As an industry, we're doing exactly the same thing. It's shocking. We've known for at least another 2 years that this was going to happen, and we're still at the stage where we're trying to work out what the next solutions are going to be. I think it's fair to assume we're not going to have a silver bullet. There isn't going to be one solution that sort of solves everything, and so there is a need for thinking and a need for discussion. But I think for me, when I look at the last 6 months, I actually don't think there's been a lot of new innovation. I think there's just been we've gone back and looked at the core principles of where our advertising has been for the last 10, 15 years. Terence mentioned sort of 3 areas. I think they're all relevant. And in isolation, they'll only do a small portion of what we need it to do. As a combination, that's really where the solution will come from. So when we think about contextual targeting, the context, the concept around context has been with us since I've been in the industry, and I've been in it for a long time, from when we were originally planning ads, context has improved, and we'll talk a little bit more about how those improvements have come about. The concept around creative has been a topic in our industry for the last 10, 15 years. You know, where we talk about delivering the right message to the right person at the right time, and we forget about delivering the right message. It's the right person at the right time has taken up all the sort of thought space. So it's good that we're starting to rethink about creative and think about attention to those messages, to those creatives. So I think a combination of custom, contextual, a combination of sort of authentic ways to find better attention or attention metrics are going to be what we've focused the last sort of year and a half on as a company, and look at solutions we're bringing out. But I think as an industry, in various iterations, that's really what the last 6 months have all been about for me.
Absolutely, that makes sense. So a lot of things to focus on, and I guess that kind of raises the question as to what agencies, and we'll start with the buy side, what agencies and advertisers should be focusing on. Terence mentioned, might have actually been one of the Daniels mentioned, there's a lot of confidence on the buy side around having first party data and the data that they have, but the activation and the difficulty of using it and utilizing it is the next kind of question. We'll start with you, Alex. What do you think from a buy side perspective should be the focus? Is it like test and learn, or what kind of approach?
Good question. It's probably a combination of things. I think, yes, first party data is important, and not every advertiser will have the same richness of data. So you have to be accounting for that. So not every client will have the same starting point or same end point. I think if we start to look how we leverage that first party data, that's part of the challenges, and how we start to work with partners, and basically, again, Jerry, in the previous conversation around guaranteed and PMPs, and how do we actually start to work and have deeper and better relationship with publishers to bring that on board? Because again, just thinking around hashed emails, I have a similar opinion. I think it's sticky plasters towards the cookie, finding a solution that's probably not the solution. I'm not against it, just to be clear, but I don't think it's the future-proof solution we're going to be aiming for. So how do we do this in a privacy-first way? How do we leverage our clients' data? How do we combine it with our publisher or partner data? It's going to be part of the challenge, and that really depends on in which market you are, what MarTech and AdTech are you using, what data do you have. So there's a lot about almost redesigning the connected ecosystems for our clients based on a privacy-first approach, where the client's data is important, but again, dependent on what they have, how we connect that to the publishers. And on the other side, it's having conversation with publishers as well about how do we make sure that they themselves not creating, I would say, mini walled gardens. I wouldn't call them then hedge gardens, but mini walled gardens in isolation, which they won't have the scale to actually be accessible and being able to work with them in a way that's scalable for agencies or for advertisers. So how do we also, I think, as an industry, make sure that we create some synergies and collaboration around publishers, building consistent taxonomies, all those things as well, to make sure that we can actually build those new connected ecosystems in this privacy-friendly world. So I think there's around how do we collect better first-party data, how do we work with clients, how do we redesign those connected ecosystems together with our partners and publishers, but also how do we have market conversation with publishers to make sure that they really future-proof themselves, not just in isolation.
I'll chime in there if I may, Angie.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a good segue.
Yeah, I don't think agencies and advertisers should really have to worry about this at all. It annoys me that they do. This is an infrastructure issue. This is an ad tech infrastructure, and we should fix this problem. Alex's clients shouldn't care whether he's using Teams or Zoom or Google Meet. He's just able to take care of his clients and run the business as normal. So we think that the advertisers and agencies shouldn't really have to get into the issues of the infrastructure. I also so hope we don't get more hedged gardens or mini walled gardens or breaking the internet up, because I'm passionate about the open internet, and I'm passionate about publishers and of all sizes, but long tail small publishers, passion sites, utility sites, and full-fledged broadcasters and excellent newspapers with foreign correspondents being able to monetize the inventory that they've invested in. And I think that publishers are at risk. They're at risk now of not being able to properly monetize their inventory when the consumers are using the browsers where third-party cookies are blocked, not first-party, but third-party. And they're at risk of losing so much more revenue when Chrome, whenever it comes, removes third-party cookies from Chrome as well. And because of that, I've been really focused on speaking with publishers, publishers who have the most risk, publishers getting ready, looking to transact in a new way, working with Universal ID, but also working with other ID solutions in the market to try and be as ready as possible so that the advertisers who shouldn't have to worry can just have this problem fixed by the demand-side platforms, the CDPs, the DMPs, and the rest of the advertising infrastructure, the ad tech infrastructure just working for them.
But I think,
I agree, and I hope you will, by the way. But I do have a worry that we probably won't have this one desk we can call and actually all is fixed. But I agree, it would be great if we get to that point.
I think this is an opportunity. Sorry, just to Katharina, you go first, and I'll chime in.
Thank you. Okay, so to chime in here, from a Google and share the Google point of view, like we do believe that like privacy and performance are not at all. Obviously, these are like challenging times for the industry overall, for marketers, to publish, for everyone. But we believe it makes sense to engage now and shape the conversation. And I like Tanzil's idea of, in uni days, we kept everything to the last minute. Let's not follow this bad habit now and actually do a couple of things, because there are already things that like publishers and marketers alike can already do. And we bucketed it into 3 areas: prepare, adapt, and evolve. So in the prepare phase, acknowledging, accepting that user expectations have been rising and new legislations are in place, and making the most of first-party data. What Google has on offer here is, for example, the new version of GA or Google Tag. And then in the adapt phase, to start using machine learning, make the most of the data you're having, kind of do more with less. And last but not least, like getting engaged in industry conversations, like that's what Alex, you already said. It's an industry effort, like overall. It's not up to a few players. At the end, everyone should engage so that the result in the end kind of makes everyone happy and everyone can have a stake of this ad ecosystem.
Yeah. So I just wanted to come back to Joanna's point a little bit here. I think, the opportunity that GDPR and the privacy changes that we're seeing, the opportunity that is for the industry is to reimagine the way we engage with our consumers. It's not about just replacing third-party cookies with a solution that essentially allows us to set it and forget it. It's an opportunity for us to reimagine. I think, the way that I see it is, we have spent the last 10 years focused on the who we're targeting. The question we should be asking ourselves is how, where, and why. And I think the solutions that we're going to look for moving forward, there isn't going to be a one solution fits all. I think the ID solutions are going to be critical to ensuring that we have some element of the who, but we really need to focus on the how, where, and why. And we see that manifesting itself in advertisers and even in a lot of cases, the agencies on behalf of the advertisers, helping them set what are the standards, what are the baseline quality metrics that they're going to want to put in place, right? What should they be looking for across their publisher network, across their inventory sets, and across Google and Facebook and Amazon as well? And at a bare minimum, we see that, making sure that ads are viewable, they're being viewed by humans rather than bots or any other fraudulent environments. They're in the intended geographic area and in an environment that's suitable for the specific brand. And I think that level of quality, I think, is going to be critical for brands moving forward, and an opportunity for the industry to help build a better ecosystem. That building the better ecosystem isn't just for the advertisers or for the publishers. The end goal here is to make sure that the consumers feel more comfortable engaging with ads and continuing to view ads and engage with ads. If they do that, we can maintain a free internet and all the other things that come with ensuring that we maintain a role for ourselves. So I think that's important that we get that across. But it's not just about replacing the cookie, right? It's reimagining the world that we've lived and essentially what the next 10 years are going to be for us.
Yeah, absolutely. A shift back to thinking about what is the purpose of advertising and what's the objective and outcomes and the underlying driving factor of why advertising is there. You touched on a point around one size fits all, and it'd be great to get everyone's take on. There's a lot of obviously varying legislations and interpretations and initiatives in market. Is it going to be multiple solutions, or is there a global solution, or do we need to have more of an EMEA focus on finding solutions to this? So maybe Alex, I'll start with you.
Always start with me.
Yes.
Thank you for that one. Just give me no time to think at all. So I think there will be, so some of the things that will come as a solution, of course, will be global, because we work with global partners, this is a global industry, right? So I'm pretty sure there will be some global solutions that are thereby also applicable for EMEA. I do think that next to that, we should explore together as a regional industry, let's call that, also some opportunities as well. I think there's a lot of great technologies, but not just technologies, overall our industry. I think we're quite intelligent and smart to come up also with other solutions. Just refer to all the things around contextual and what can we do with that, but also reimagining, as Jess was saying, the industry. I think we'll also see some things, I would say, going back to the future in a way that we look at how do we leverage panel data in a different way? How do we do the things we've done in the past? Contextual in the end is always, it's been old school into new school now. So I think we're going to reimagine, and I think reimagine is a good word in the way that we're looking at things that we previously already done, but then in a new way from a privacy perspective. And I think as a region, and also in a market, we'll see some great innovation that can scale to other markets as well. So I don't think we're going to be totally dependent, maybe some global, like more from a technology, yes. But I think there's some great opportunities, again, by market, by region, with publishers, with advertisers, to come up with some great concepts and ideas that actually are fit for purpose. So I hope it's going to be a combination of the two.
Well, from Google point of view, the solutions we are working on may be short, may be fledged global solutions. However, if there are regional solutions in place or identity solutions, we still support them. We allow encrypted signals to go through the system. However, like, in the long term, we see a focus on like first-party data and really like building new solutions. I think, as Tanzil said, of like to really build a new web that's pretty safe and where users feel safe. It's like we are not recreating the past, we are building for the future. So that's our point of view.
Excellent. Joanna?
Yeah, so I do think the solution will be global. I think it is a new infrastructure for the internet. It has to be privacy by design, but the technology needs to work as well in Europe as it does in the US and Japan and in Brazil, LGDP. We just need a solution that works for everyone, I think. And also to Tanzil's point earlier, it should be a solution that also isn't just about targeting and addressability. I do think we need one-on-one addressability to be able to compete with the walled gardens and the hedge gardens. We need an ability to target each individual with a specific right time, right place message, as Terry was saying in his presentation. But we also need to be able to frequency cap, to measure, to attribute properly. So we need a new way of thinking that encompasses all of that. And to Daniel Knapp's, Dr. Knapp's point earlier, this is the delayed payback of the GDPR, the delayed gift of the GDPR. We've built technology in Europe that is GDPR compliant, like the most stringent privacy regulations that are in place so far. And we've already built a solution. So that, I hope, means that we're ahead as an industry, we're ahead of where we need to be in the US or where we need to be in Brazil, APAC in the coming years.
So I think I agree with everybody. I think there's going to be a combination of both global and regional local technologies, right? I think the fragmentation we see in Europe is wholly different than the fragmentation that the Americans see across their industries there, right? We have the same level of publisher and user fragmentation, but we then have, I mean, a number of markets that we have to apply that across, right? So the challenges we're facing are different, the nuances we're facing are different. And I think, as I've said throughout, as we shift from just focusing on the who to a broader set of metrics, we then, cultures come into play, understanding nuances by region, understanding the way that, in publisher-centric markets versus, open markets, right? There's a whole bunch of nuances that exist in markets outside of the States that we haven't historically really catered for. And I think there's an opportunity for us to reimagine that. So I do think from a technology standpoint, we are going to have global technologies that sort of work consistently across the globe. But we're going to have regional nuances really to help drive value at that local and regional level.
Brilliant. Excellent. Looking at time to make sure we've got enough to all gaze into the crystal ball one last time. By way of wrapping it up, we've obviously had a view that we're leaving our homework to the last minute. There's a lot of opportunities out there, but there will be nuances and hopefully a global view as well. But it'd be great to get each of you to think about, in the next 12 months from where we are, what do you think are going to be the kind of key highlights within this area, and will we all sitting here having failed the exam in 12 months time? Hopefully not. I'll start with you, Katharina.
If you're touching on highlights, I say everyone's waiting obviously for flock tests to come to Europe. So once that's underway, we've got to send out the news, and the same applies. On a general note, I'd like to say once again, privacy performance are not at all. I think we can all look positively into the future, and we are confident about the solutions that are being developed and that they will be ready and usable for the market at some point. That's what I can say from Google's perspective for the time being.
Excellent. Tanzil?
So I think we didn't really get into a lot of topics. I think half an hour is clearly not enough for this conversation, but we didn't talk about CTV. I know Terence mentioned it, but we'll see that continue to grow. I think the next 12 months are going to be interesting as we see that shift of consumers and where they're consuming media. So I think CTV is going to be an interesting growth factor. Joanna's mentioned at length that we need to be privacy friendly, privacy first, and I think that's going to be critical for all solutions coming to market. It'll be interesting to see how many of those solutions are able to deliver as good as, if not better, performance than what was perceived as third-party cookies. I actually think it'll be different rather than the same, but nevertheless, it'll be interesting to see where that ends up. Performance is going to be in the topic. It's going to be a newsworthy discussion for the next 12 months. We have to find the industry will look for a replacement, and I think it's a case of how do we get to a point where we can still talk about performance and not talk about cookies as in the same breath. And I think the last thing that I'll say is, we've seen already a lot of players in the market highlight their solutions as being the sort of an answer to a problem that cookies are leaving. I don't think contextual targeting is going to replace the cookie. I don't think measurement tools or first-party data environments on their own will replace the cookie. I think what we're going to have to do as an industry is come together, and those, all the solutions that we have will have to come together to create whatever the solution will be that replaces the cookie and allows us to engage target consumers, to give them positive experiences, and all in a privacy-friendly way.
Excellent. More collaboration, definitely. Always agree with that. Joanna?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you too. I think there'll be more collaboration, more industry conversations along the lines that you're leading here, and more tools being developed by the industry bodies, more standards. I'd expect more standards. What I'm experiencing is a huge thirst for information, which I think is an opportunity for industry bodies to keep guiding the way. I'm also seeing people looking, when I talk to agencies, looking for an alternative to DV360. So I think we'll see that when DSPs look to have more the ability to continue to do one-on-one targeting going forward. And I think we'll see more and more adoption of alternative identity solutions, including ours, I'm sure.
And Alex, I saved you for last because I kept on asking you first.
Oh, lovely. Now it's even harder because everyone said everything. Right? So perfect. No, I can only echo the things that I already said. I think from a GroupM perspective, we always talk about making advertising work better for people. I hope in 12 months, we're actually moving towards that as an industry. I think privacy first, we agree on. I think the tech getting more aligned, I think we agree on. One thing I do expect is, and I hope, is around creativity. So how do we really become more creative, and how do we think around the consumers we're reaching in a creative way, and how can we leverage that? So I think that's an important one. And one thing I think that wasn't mentioned, but I do feel is, we haven't talked much about machine learning and all of those things, but I think with the data that will be available and the data that's not available, so working with less information, but making sure we actually leverage it, I think we'll see a change in the industry around how much will we still do manually versus what will be provided by machines. And I think as we move into the industry, I think we'll also see quite a seismic change in what is the technology, but also from the machine learning algorithm, all those things, what is provided by the machine and actually executed by a machine versus what's the role of the people, the agencies. And thereby, I think you'll see a shift in different skill sets of what we need. On one side, more the data skill sets, on the other side, more the creative skill sets. So you kind of see, I think, a need towards different people in the industry. And that's also, I think, quite interesting.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex, Joanna, Tanzil, and Katharina. Really interesting conversation. I'm sure we could have carried on talking for another hour very easily, a lot to cover. And with that, I'll hand back to Constantine.